Hey everybody, John Van Dyke here for New Jersey Exposed. Today is Sunday, July 24th, 2022. Time is 5:53 p.m. Jersey time, a very hot Jersey time. It is 93 degrees right now here in New Jersey. It is sweltering and it is humid. But besides that, I have some good news. Good news is here in New Jersey, the cops are now going to have to get licensed. No more just going through the training and then applying for a job. They have to get a license. So this came out the other day. Let's see what the date is. July 21st. This is reported on WHYY.org. And it reads as follows. NJ becomes 47th state to require police officers to obtain a license. And there it is. I'm sure the blue diaper gang doesn't like that because that's just one more thing that they're going to be held accountable for. And we all know the gang, the blue diaper gang, the bad guys, they don't like to be held accountable. All right, let's get into it and find out what happened here. New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy signed a law on Thursday requiring all law enforcement officers to obtain policing license in order to be employed as officers in the state. The state's police training commission will operate the licensing program. It will be a strong signal to the community that transparency and accountability matter, Murphy said at a signing ceremony in Secaucus, and there are the foundational principles for rebuilding the bonds of trust. Oh yeah, well, you want to rebuild the bonds of trust, start holding them personally accountable. Get rid of qualified immunity or modify the qualified immunity so these bad cops can start being held accountable for the crap that they do and the money they're costing taxpayers. And let's see, rebuilding the bonds of trust between police and the residents they serve, especially not only, but especially in our black and brown communities. Let's see, under the new law, licenses will not be issued to people convicted of any crime in New Jersey or anywhere in the U.S., including domestic violence related and firearm related offenses. Licenses, well, that's interesting, domestic violence. Well, we all know that cops like to beat up women, and their wives are no exception to that rule. They do like to beat their wives, and they do like to beat up their girlfriends. One of the favorite things that they like to do is they like to choke them. That's what they like to do. They like to choke their girlfriends and their wives. Let's see. License will also not be issued to active members of anti-government groups or groups that advocate for discrimination as listed by the state's law against discrimination. The state can revoke an officer's license for any aforementioned reasons, as well as for misconduct in officers' personal or professional life, like making statements, posting, sharing, or commenting in support of any posting on social media or otherwise that demonstrates, espouses, advocates, or supports discrimination or violence against or hatred or bias towards individuals or groups based on race, creed, color, national origin, ancestry, sex, marital status, sexual orientation, gender identity or expression, or any other protected characteristic under the law against discrimination according to the governor's office. I wonder if that includes people like me who speak out about bad cops, because there is they have a habit of trying to get you in trouble with your employer. They have a history of bad-mouthing you and things like that. So I wonder if that's covered under it. We know that even one instance of abuse of authority from one officer can taint the honest efforts of an entire department. Being a member of New Jersey law enforcement's family is a privilege. It is not a right, and this new license will send a strong message that the person entrusted with it takes his privilege seriously, Murphy says. Assemblywoman Verlina Reynolds Jackson, she's a Democrat out of Mercer County, was one of the law's primary sponsors. Many professions require licenses and are held accountable if they are in violation. The job of law enforcement is critically important to our communities as the work of doctors and lawyers. This law will raise the level of professionalism, well, I don't know about that is required to serve our communities in any situation, Reynolds Jackson said. Advocacy groups praise the new measure, though some call on the state government to pass more police reforms. Well, we need to start holding these bad cops accountable for the crap that they're doing. That's the bottom line, because there is no consequences. When they screw up, it's us taxpayers, time after time after time, that pay the price. And the cop, nothing happens. You know, nothing happens. He gets called in the office, the chief reams him out, and then they do a disciplinary report maybe, and he'll be sent for more training, you know, bullshit like that. You know, it's rare. I don't say they don't get fired. It's just that they don't get fired enough. That's the problem. Amol Sinha, executive director of the ACLU, New Jersey, said the state should pass reform that creates better transparency over police disciplinary records, allow municipalities to create civilian review boards and subpoena powers, and end qualified immunity for public officials and law enforcement officers. Well, I think it should be each town should have a civilian board, and you could make that up of, you know, the way you could do it is you could have 2 members from the community. You could have a retired lawyer. You could have a retired police officer on that panel. Or you can make it all civilians, taxpayers, since we are the employers, so why should we not be the ones that judge them? But I'd be willing to entertain that idea of having a retired lawyer and having a retired police officer on that board, but it would have to be dominated by civilians, that's for sure, citizens. And disciplinary records. I don't see why we should not see their disciplinary records. We're the employer. You go to work, your employer can go right there and pull your file out and see who you are and what you've been up to. Why can't we do that? You know, it's just another way that they try to hide everything so that we can't see what they've been up to. Now, the one thing that we can see is every 6 months, the Attorney General here in New Jersey releases the officer disciplinary report. And so you can go look up your town and see if any officers in your town have been disciplined for whatever reasons. And the only thing you're going to find on that report is a very watered down explanation to what it is. Like, say a cop, I don't know, he backed a car up into a post and put a little dent in it, and maybe he didn't tell anybody or something. You know, he would get written up for not taking good care of public property, and that would be extent. It wouldn't say what it is, and if he was suspended for a day, it would say suspended without pay for 1 day. So that's what it tells you. It doesn't give you the report as to what happened, so it leaves it very up in the air. But you do get to see which officers from your town, if any officers that is, not all towns have officers that are disciplined, and a report sent to Trenton on that, but we can. So we are a step closer to holding these clowns accountable. And you can readily get that report from New Jersey. You just go to the Attorney General New Jersey Attorney General's website and just search around. You'll find it there. I've already downloaded. There's 2 reports as far as I know so far. So I've downloaded the first one. I got the second one. I look up to see what's going on. And so that is, we are a step closer. And of course, the qualified immunity, that needs to be modified. I'm not saying a cop should be held responsible for every little mistake he makes, but if it's pretty plain to see that a cop was punching a guy in the face and he had handcuffs on him, and that guy turns around and sues the town for a deprivation of rights, his rights have been violated, and he's going to say he's going to sue for, I don't know, $500,000, that cop should have to bear some responsibility. The town will pay a portion of it, and I think the cops should pay a portion of it. That's the only way you're going to resolve it. So that way, these cops running around up there, they know that they're going to act stupid, and they get caught because there's cameras everywhere now. These bad cops, they can't hide anymore. They're getting caught all the time. Unfortunately, nothing seems to happen when they get caught. Okay, let me see what else we got on here. And you're right, many professions do have a, people always say, well, this is the one I get all the time when I talk about a bad cop. Now, I'm not making aspersions out there, oh, this cop is no good. It's when I'm doing a story on a cop that's been caught and arrested. And people will say to me on Facebook, well, there's bad in every profession. Yes, there is bad in every profession, but let me tell you about a lawyer, and let me tell you about a doctor, and let me tell you about the plumber and the electrician and the carpenter and anybody else that gets a license, a professional license. When they screw up, they are held responsible. If they're incorporated, then the company will be responsible. That's why they have liability insurance. So they have a personal stake in this. It's not like say to the doctor, he didn't do something right and you got sick because of the medication he gave you and it's clear that he screwed up. He's going to get sued. His insurance is going to have to pay out. That causes his liability practice insurance to go up, and it costs him money. And if he screws up enough, he'll lose his license and he can't practice anymore. This doesn't happen around here in New Jersey. These cops screw up and us taxpayers pay all the time. Okay, what else does it say? New Jersey lags behind among the few states that keep police disciplinary records hidden from the public. Sinha said officers will be required to renew their license every 3 years. New Jersey is now the 47th state to enact the police licensing program. According to Bloomberg Law, California, Massachusetts, and Rhode Island currently do not require officers to obtain a license, and that's all they say about that. So New Jersey's moving a little bit closer to holding these bad cops, these turds, the blue turds. They wear the blue diapers. The bad ones, the ones that get mad at me and want to tell my employer that I'm bad-mouthing police and all that. And they come into my job and ask me, oh, what do you got a problem with cops? What, do you hate cops? No, don't hate cops. I like good cops. I'm there. I'm backing good cops up. I have nothing but praise for the good cop. And, the question comes up, maybe I should do a separate video on it, but, what makes a cop a good cop? There's plenty of good cops riding around out there, but they know about the bad cops in their department. They don't say anything. They're in a rock and a hard place. Does that make them a bad cop? Because, I have said jokingly that there's only 3 kinds of police officers. There's the bad cop. We all know about them. And then there's the good cop that looks the other way. And then, the claims to be a good cop that does nothing, okay? The limp dick cop, okay? Good one does nothing. Then you got the good cop that does something about it. Unfortunately, the good cop that rises up and shows integrity doesn't have a job. Because the blue line, you rat another cop out, you're in trouble. If you're a cop and you do it, I know this for a fact, that this is what happens, that a good cop who wants to stand up and say something has a lot, it's got a lot on the line there when they do that. The bad cop doesn't have as much, but the good cop really is out there on the, they're in a rock and a hard place when they say something. They want to say something, but if they do, then the blue line of BS steps up and pushes back against them, and yeah. But just to finish up, I know I repeat myself sometimes. We got to start. These cops have to have consequences for what they do. And when they're out there beating up their wives, they're driving drunk, and they get caught, they got to lose their license. That's it. Period. Lose their license. We want to have good cops out there, then we have got to have good people with good, clean records. Not like happened over in Long Branch a couple years ago. He had that Patrick Joyce guy. He's out with his buddy, and they beat somebody up at a nightclub, break the guy's jaw, and this Patrick Joyce gets he gets in trouble. He gets 1 year probation. So what do they do for him? Instead of firing his ass like he should have been fired because he behaved like a thug and helped beat somebody up. No, what do? They tell him take a leave of absence for a year, and when you're off probation, come back for your job. And he gets his job back, and what happens? A couple of years later, he gets in trouble for criminal sexual assault, and finally gets fired. He should have been fired the first time, but they didn't. They cut him a break because his father was a lieutenant, and he was well respected in the department. So, all right. Anyway, so enough of my ratchet jawing here. Let me see if I can get this. I'll put that link in the description. I don't know if you can see it or not. We got a little reflection out here, but go read the story yourself and let me know what you think in the comments section. Like, share, subscribe. Share these videos around. Let people know what the bad cops are doing. I keep putting all these stories up on my Facebook, and so I'm not doing all the stories, but if you ever want to know what's going on, you just go to my Facebook page, Gunnison Undercover, and I will be putting any stories that pop up every day. I'm putting the link out there, and just so you know, I'm in Facebook jail for another 3 weeks or so. So I won't be putting any stories up until I'm back out of Facebook jail. I'm John Van Dyke for New Jersey Exposed. Till next time, people.